Chris, I want to go straight to Cairo again. We are taking a look at live pictures here. The Egyptian Ministry of Interior that is on fire. We understand that there are at least 7 floors of the building that are burning. Our own Ivan Watson is live from Cairo. Ivan, can you give us a sense of what is taking place there behind you? I see the billowing smoke. Is that the building there?
That is the Interior Ministry. Let me get right out of the way, Suzanne, so you can see. This is the headquarters of the Interior Ministry. That's basically what runs the police in Egypt that we have seen going up in smoke really within the last half hour. In a matter of minutes, we've seen the flames engulf the front and side of the building, and we've actually seen parts of it collapse. In this inferno. There are firefighters on the scene, apparently trying to put out some of the flames that have spread to neighboring buildings. Now, just a few hours ago, Suzanne, we were in front of the Interior Ministry because thousands of police officers, some of them in uniform, were demonstrating peacefully in front of the building, very energetically demanding higher wages. And we saw a procession of them march away from the Interior Ministry through Cairo's famous Tahrir Square towards the headquarters of state radio and television, again peacefully, and then within minutes, the place that they had left went up in smoke with these flames. Very important to point out, Suzanne, on February 23rd, nearly a month ago exactly, we were here when there was another smaller protest in front of the very same building, and demonstrators apparently set fire to several cars and to the facade of one of the neighboring buildings in the Interior Ministry compound before Egyptian soldiers and firefighters were able to bring that blaze under control. Not nearly as destructive as what we are seeing now. This clearly underscores the fact that Egypt is still facing instability. This political situation is still turbulent here more than a month after the longtime President Hosni Mubarak was overthrown and pushed out of power.
And Ivan, can you tell us how this fire started? Does it seem or look or appear as if it had something to do with the demonstrators or the protesters?
Well, we spoke with a spokesman for the Interior Ministry just moments ago, Ala Mahmoud, and he said that it's not clear who began this fire. My colleague Ian Lee has been on the ground in front of the building. He says some of the demonstrators told him that the fire was ignited from within, basically alleging that this was some kind of an inside job. We don't know the origins of this blaze. It is possible this could have been some kind of electrical accident, but I do think it's suspect given that a month ago there was a similar attempt to set fire to neighboring buildings. We heard conflicting reports after that incident, some people arguing that there were attempts to set fire to records inside the Interior Ministry so that they could be destroyed. Other arguments that perhaps they were demonstrators themselves trying to commit acts of arson. What is clear, Suzanne, is that this has long been a fortress, the headquarters of what the police state that has helped maintain order and iron grip on the Egyptian society, on the Egyptian population, and we've seen it go up in smoke really in a matter of minutes.
Who's in that building? Are there people in that building right now? Are people being evacuated?
At the time when we were there, Egyptian Interior Ministry officers were there. They were on guard duty. Some of the demonstrators had climbed up onto some of the guard towers, onto the roofs of them, to participate in the demonstration. It is clear that some of the employees were still there. At the time, though there were police not only demonstrating and demanding higher wages and actually insulting the people who run the Interior Ministry, it was a peaceful situation. And now we see this fire that just erupted. From this vantage point, I honestly cannot say if people have been caught inside the building amid this inferno.
Does it look like from your vantage point, Ivan, that they're able to control this blaze, or are they having a difficult time? We see a lot of black smoke. We've seen some flames as well. Are there a lot of personnel, emergency crew that are trying to put this out?
From here, we've been able to see fire trucks on the scene, not only hosing down the headquarters, but also neighboring buildings that caught on fire, and they were on some of the rooftops as well. We also saw what appeared to be at least a floor of the building collapsing, Suzanne. That's within the last 25 minutes. Just to give you a sense of how quickly this is burned, and a little bit more context. During the revolution that came from Tahrir Square, which is really less than a 5-minute walk away from this building, there were ongoing clashes, deadly clashes for days around the Interior Ministry between some of the police inside and demonstrators who were attacking the building at times, trying to protest in front of it. And we saw a constant stream of demonstrators coming away from the building with gunshot wounds. This was a target of the revolutionaries who wanted to overthrow President Hosni Mubarak and his police state, and another reason why, another possible motive for why this could have gone up in flames right now.
And Ivan, you said before there were thousands of protesters who were demonstrating outside of this building before. Where are they now? Have they scattered, or are they chanting, or are they cheering? How are people responding to this big fire now?
Well, we saw within the last 45 minutes about several thousand demonstrators marching in a peaceful procession that stopped traffic, marching away from the Interior Ministry through Cairo's famous Tahrir Square towards the headquarters of state radio and television, which has been a popular route for demonstrators throughout the instability and the popular uprising that Egypt has witnessed really since January. So it did seem that the bulk of the demonstrators were leaving the Interior Ministry. So what is strange is that about 20 minutes after we saw them leave it, the building went up in smoke.
And from our vantage point, we can see some people on the roof. It looks like perhaps some firefighters or rescue workers there. Can you see at all whether or not there are people that are either inside the building, close to the building, in any kind of danger from this fire, from this, you said 7 floors now burning?
I'm afraid I cannot from this vantage point, and where we seem to see the fire hoses right now, that I believe is a neighboring building next to the Interior Ministry headquarters, which the fire appeared to have spread to that building, Suzanne.
So it is not just the interior building?
Witnessed an historic... No. We saw it definitely spread to some of the neighboring buildings. Now, some of these buildings, Suzanne, are part of the compound. They are affiliate buildings belonging to the Interior Ministry. To the right of it, the Criminal Records Building, which a month ago, the facade of that building was torched after another demonstration involving former and current Interior Ministry employees. Important thing to keep in mind here, Egypt witnessed an historic revolution, a mostly peaceful revolution within the last 2 months. The police were a source of anger and frustration because they had repeatedly attacked peaceful demonstrators in these very streets. This underscores the fact that this country is still far from stable in this post-revolutionary period.
Certainly.
Suzanne?
Do you know anything more about the building, that building inside? Is that the place where many people talked about they were held, they were beaten by police? Some people alleged that they had been tortured. There were some journalists who had alleged that they had been taken away and held by Mubarak's forces. Do you know if any of that, any of those facilities or any of that kind of activity took place in that building that's now burning?
I do know that this was the main, it was the nerve center, the brain, if you will, of the police state. It was well fortified, so that at the height of the democratic uprising here in Tahrir Square, when the police had almost completely disappeared from the streets of the Egyptian capital overnight, there were still a number of Interior Ministry employees inside that building, and they were fighting off approaches by demonstrators using, at some points, lethal force, shooting buckshot and shooting bullets at demonstrators who tried to approach that building at a time when we could not see any police presence anywhere else, not only in the Egyptian capital, but anywhere else throughout the city and the rest of the country.
Okay.
Police stations around Egypt were targeted throughout that period, Suzanne. They were the frequent target of the uprising and often set on fire. It's anybody's guess right now who was behind this blaze, and a spokesman for the Interior Ministry tells us he does not know who started this fire or whether it was an accident or not.
Okay, Ivan Watson on the ground there for us in Cairo, keeping a very close eye of this building that is on fire, a building that is important practically and symbolically for so many Egyptians who targeted and saw the police as the source of their frustration and outrage, not just the Mubarak government, but the police as well, many alleging that the police were engaged in brutal acts against its own civilians. One of those buildings now ablaze. Looks like that fire could be extinguished fairly soon. We're going to have more details after this quick break.